Welcome to our live training session number 44, part 6. In this video, we're going to learn how to get our K24 engine fired up and running on a cold start. We're going to be looking at our tables from our prime pulse tables, our cranking enrichment tables, our post-start, and our warm-up enrichment. So the engine's going to have an appropriate air fuel when it fires off and runs and it's coming up to operating temperature. In addition to this, we're going to be taking a look at our acceleration enrichment and also introducing how to set up a launch control using a 12-position trim pot. That's going to be allowing the driver to select different launch RPMs at the drag strip without getting a laptop out. We're going to have a lot to cover, so let's jump into our live training session so we can get started. Welcome back to our live training session here with a K24 swapped EG Civic running on a Link Fury standalone. In the last video, we completed our full throttle tuning. We went in, we set up our variable cam mapping, we set up our fuel, we set up our spark, and we set up our VTEC engagement points. So now the engine has been tuned and it makes around 315 horsepower naturally aspirated, which is quite impressive. So now we're going to be taking a look at doing our cold start. This is day 2. So I've let the engine cool down overnight and we're going to be starting off and firing off the engine and try to evaluate the prime pulse, the cranking fuel, the post start, and the warm-up enrichment. Now some other things that we haven't looked at yet is going to be the acceleration enrichment, which is usually one of the last things I review and setting up and configuring, because we need to make sure that the base fuel table, the main fuel table here, in this case it'd be our fuel table 1. We do have two fuel tables, one for low cam, one for high cam operation, but our fuel table 1 has to be dialed in 100% before we really can evaluate anything else for the cranking fuel, prime pulse, post start, warm up enrichment. So that's what we're going to be doing here, firing it up, letting it run, coming up to operating temperature, taking a data log, and then going back through and just seeing if we need to make any adjustments. So we might find that something's just off and we need to correct it in one of the compensation tables. Now, on top of all of this, we still haven't populated our ignition trim tables. I left those out in the last video when we were doing our mapping. There's a coolant temp and there's an intake air temp compensation for the ignition trim specifically. Now we want to go in and definitely work with our engine coolant temp compensation specifically for this video. We need to have more timing on a cold engine. Now we're going to find the atomization is really poor when the engine fires up. When the intake manifold's cold, when the engine's cold, the fuel does not atomize very well, and therefore the engine will just inherently make less power, less torque. And in the situation where we're talking about our idle torque, we don't have an idle control motor in this particular engine. We're just mechanically making the idle work based on airflow alone. So we open up the throttle plate a certain amount and then using our spark timing feedback to manipulate how much engine torque the engine is making at idle. Now on a cold engine, because we have poor atomization and the engine's going to be making a little bit less power, a little less torque, we're going to have to essentially add more torque. The only way we can do that would be either adding more airflow. We don't have a idle control motor, so we can't do that. Or we can go in and add spark timing, which is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be bumping up a spark timing specifically at idle and the lighter load conditions when the engine is cold, and then tapering that back out so it rides what we program on the main spark timing table. Now we do have, if we jump real quick here, move over into our idle tab here, under the idle tuning tab here, idle control tuning. We do have our idle ignition table here. This is going to be based on the idle RPM air. So at the 0 point here, that means that we're hitting the exact target that we're asking for down here. Now I do have higher engine RPM targets that I'd like to hit. I don't think I'm going to, but I put them in there. So it's more aggressive in the way it's applying the spark timing. We can see here at the colder temperatures, the left axis here is engine coolant temp and degrees Fahrenheit. And then this is our air here. So if we're going negative, we're overshooting the idle. We can see we'd be pulling timing out compared to this 0 point. And then if we're going to be here in the positive numbers, we're undershooting it. So in this case, I'm anticipating it probably undershooting, and then it's going to be adding this much additional timing. There's a lot more timing here added on the undershooting, specifically on the colder temperatures, because that's what I'm anticipating it doing. So by bumping in the spark timing, we'll get some of that lost idle torque back, and then as it warms up, it'll start to slowly bring back the timing, and then it'll go and operate where we previously had it at here in the warmer operation temperature ranges right here. So we need to go and make sure that this is all sorted out. This is also part of what we're going to be reviewing. So when we fire up the engine, I don't know if it's going to be firing up and holding an idle at all. We might have to give a little bit of throttle, but our goal is to be able to have it fire up on its own, not give it throttle, and then using our idle ignition advanced here to be able to manipulate that idle torque that we're losing. Let's actually go into the ignition timing. We were talking about this. So the ignition table 1, that's our low cam operation. This has been mapped out. We did learn in our area right here. So 100 to 90 kPa at 0 to 500, even 1,000. We need to bring our timing down there. That affects your cranking timing. So in this case, I brought that down to 0, so it cranked over a little bit smoother. We do have our ECT ignition trim table here. So we have a 3D table for both IAT and ECT. We're specifically interested in the ECT, but we'll go populate. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.